Well, after last night's cold front came through, we've got smoke moving back into the picture across Minnesota. Air quality alerts are in place. A cooler Thursday, but heat is really building in for the weekend into next week. So the latest drought monitor is in, and drought really improved across most of Minnesota. This is the biggest improvement we've seen all summer so far. Twin Cities area no longer in severe drought. The pockets of that in north central, southeastern Minnesota, and just one extreme drought area in southeastern Minnesota. In fact, for the first time, 1% of Minnesota is actually not in any drought or abnormally dry category out around Wilmer and Spicer. So again, this is the biggest improvement we've seen all summer. Still a long way out of getting out of the drought for most of the state, but thanks to that rain we had over the weekend, a big swath of heavy rainfall across much of central Minnesota back into South Dakota, 1 to 3 inches of rain, really taking a nice bite out of the drought here. So if we can keep that up, we will make some progress. Unfortunately, it looks pretty dry and hot here as we head into the weekend and next week. We do have an air quality alert in place through late Friday across all of Minnesota. We're expecting unhealthy air for the Twin Cities up to the north and unhealthy for sensitive groups elsewhere in western and southern Minnesota. So the winds are out of the northwest today. That is bringing in the smoke. There's not a lot of good data though in Canada. So this is a dynamic situation. Things could change as we see more or less smoke actually move in across the state. But we can see it on satellite imagery. There are pockets and areas of smoke moving in. So rather than one large plume, it's kind of smaller plumes moving in. So some areas will see much worse or much better air quality, but our models do bring in smoke across a wide swath of Minnesota into late today and Friday. But again, forecasting smoke is pretty tricky here past 24 hours. Weather's hard enough, and then trying to forecast something that is influenced by weather is even more complicated. But cooler today across the state, just low 70s north, mid 70s in southern Minnesota today. That's actually cooler than normal, but back to those normal temperatures well into the 80s for southern and western Minnesota on Friday. And then we're cranking it up here. Temperatures going to be really heating up Saturday into next week after this little blast of cool air moves out of here. This is the forecast upper level pattern, and what we're really watching is the heat dome parking over the central U.S., creating some very hot conditions, maybe some of the hottest temperatures we've seen this summer for some spots. Our number to beat is the upper 90s. We're looking probably at least at mid 90s next week, and still a chance of some upper 90s. Saturday, low to mid 90s across southern and western Minnesota, well into the 80s for northern Minnesota, and the heat is sticking around, it looks like, into next week. A string of 90-degree plus days. Might have a little bit of a break Sunday, Monday. Some models do cool us back into the upper 80s, but overall, if we kind of look at the consensus, it does stay pretty hot through next week. And again, that chance at maybe some upper 90s by the middle of next week.